What?
We're going to see if we can't get our Queen's Court involved here real quick. Hey, Laura Beth.
And welcome to the Supreme Showman on WILO TV.
We are actually live right now on the TV, and how would you like to give everybody a little taste of what all you've been going through? Introduce yourself and
Today?
Yeah,
Okay.
a little bit of everything all week if you want.
So I've been going to a lot of animal shows, and today has been really fun. It was the llama show, so lots of llamas were going through quite a few obstacle courses, and that was really neat because they're a whole different animal, very different from the pigs and sheep and all the other things I've been seeing. So that was really fun.
This is Laura Beth Ann Landis, by the way, and she is our Clinton County 4-H Fair Queen for 2017. And Laura Beth, why don't you tell them a little bit about what you're going to be doing once this is over with, because you don't have much downtime. You and I had a nice long conversation last night.
Yes. So after this, I have just a few weeks before I head off to Idaho. I'm going to be attending a small college, New St. Andrews College there. And then after that, I hope to go to art school. So that's my future plan. Hopefully, Lord willing, it all works out.
All righty. And next to you is our second runner-up, Hannah Blackard. I've known Hannah since she was a little one, and that's kind of neat to see her grow up. And she's also Miss Congeniality, so she has actually 2 sashes. And Hannah, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what your week's been like for you, what some of the highlights have been, and then also what your future plans are.
This week has been actually pretty great since it's my 10th year of 4-H. I just wanted to be part of the Queen's Court because ever since I was little, I always looked up to the Queens. Yesterday I showed my pigs, and I was actually received 3rd overall barrow, so that was a great accomplishment for my family. Next year I plan on attending Indiana University Kokomo to study medical imaging. I would like to be an ultrasound technologist in the future.
Cool. That's cool, because that's pretty neat technology, and I know you and I have already talked about, she knows I like cartoons, so we have that in common. Miss Mackenzie Paget. Mackenzie is our first runner-up here on the Queen's Court, and we're also going to get into some more in-depth conversation up here because she's actually going to help commentate the show today. So Mackenzie, why don't you tell them a little bit about the highlights of being on the court? And
Absolutely. So I've been out of high school for 1 year, so I thought it was pretty cool to come back and run when I was a little bit older, just for the fact that I was so involved in 4-H, and I just figured that it would be easier to be on the court and actually enjoy my time with the girls and just seeing every show from a different perspective instead of trying to be on the court and be in the shows. So I think it's been really fun, and it's been a great experience with these two, and I've had a blast all week, and I can't wait for the rest of the week.
Sounds great. And I know I tried to leave you guys all alone. I tried to pick on you a little bit yesterday because poor Hannah was going out there and hurrying up, showing a pig, and then coming back, and then hurrying up, showing a pig, and coming back. And I know I've watched you do that as well. So for you to come back is pretty neat. Anything that you guys want to add that you would want to encourage maybe members out there for next year, or anybody, because you don't have to be in 4-H to be on the Queen's Court. So maybe some words of encouragement, what you think.
I would just say I was one that the pageants and the queen thing isn't really my thing, getting dressed up and all that. That's not my thing, but I came out, I stepped out of my comfort zone. It's been a really great experience. I got to learn some different skills from interviews and public speaking. So I would just say if you're scared, it's okay, and it's a great way to get out of your comfort zone. Like Kinsey said, it's a great way to get out of your little box, and I'm probably one of the shyest, like most shy in my grade, and becoming part of the Queen Contest was a great experience for me, and I just encourage every young 4-H member to try to become a part of this one day.
And I think that the contest has a reputation of being a little scary, but really we had a really fun time. I know I did, and I'm sure you girls did too. So I encourage girls not to be intimidated by the factor that it's a queen contest, but that they're all just girls who are just like you. They're coming in, they're new at this most likely, and that you're all in it for the experience to have fun.
Sounds great. Well, we will leave you guys alone because I know we are getting very close to start time. I know our judges are arriving, and Mackenzie, we'll pull you up here. I would imagine you're going to do some kind of an introduction, and then we'll pull you up here and we'll get started. So thank you, ladies, very much. I honestly don't think that Clinton County could ask for any better representation. These girls have been amazing all week. I've had an opportunity to watch them work, and it is work. Don't let anybody kid you. It is.
Like my physics teacher at Clinton Prairie said, only the best butter.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, they are actually. We're getting ready to start the horses, so contest is beginning, and that's where we're heading. So,
so they're going to go outside this time.
Yes, they are going to go outside. The horses will actually be outside in the outdoor arena. It's just safer out there. And once that's over with, we'll get Mackenzie up here, and we'll talk a little bit about what the actual contest, what they actually did while they were out there.
It'll be a little bit unauspicious start for us, but I think you probably should go out there.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to head. And like I said, when we come back in, I and Mackenzie will get up here and we'll talk about what they actually went through, because they have a course that they have to do, a set course that they do, and different routines that they work with the horse. That the horses have actually been taught, but if they're not given the right command, then, or if they're your master showman in your other categories, if they're nervous, the horses are going to pick up on it. If they don't know the right command, the right way to move the bridle, or what side of the horse to stand on, then the horse is going to pick up on that, and they're not going to do what they normally would do through the course. So
we'll let you go there. We're going to keep everything live while Melissa goes out with Mackenzie Paget. And Mackenzie has won this competition before. She won in 2014, so she'll be actually giving us the inside story, if you will, while they go out to the arena. It's probably about 150 yards from here, right outside that door there. And that's where they're headed. You can see a few horses there. We could, if we had a drone shot, we might be able to take camera 2. Someday, perhaps we will. Unfortunately, we're unable to do that. As Melissa said, they used to do the horse inside, and that was just not a safe situation, understandably, with those large animals. So they are having that outside now. And we'll get all the points will be total. I believe there are 5 different species that they'll be competing, horse being one of them. Sheep, goat, swine, and also the cattle. And we have had a great chance to bring you not only the parade on WILO TV, but we also brought you the Queen Contest, and of course tonight's broadcast of the Supreme Showman, one of the premier opportunities to show your skills over the years that you've developed. It takes many years to create the competency that we're going to be seeing tonight, because they have to do several different species, and they'll be judged very carefully by a competent judge. And then they will be able to then go on to the state fair to compete. So again, Melissa Miller and also Mackenzie Paget are out observing the horse competition now. I will say that a lot of people are staying inside anyway. They're not going out necessarily to the outside horse competition there. Thank you for joining us on WILO TV for the Supreme Showman, and we are archiving this as well, so this will be available even to the competitors, so that they can use it as a keepsake if they like. You're more than welcome to make a copy of it yourself. Don't worry about the copyright. This is all being presented by Clinton County's Senator Brant Hirschman, proud sponsor of Clinton County Fair coverage on WILOTV.com. There's an empty part of the stands there, obviously out at the horse arena. And this won't take too very long. They'll come back and then they'll give us a report on what we see. Look also for the archive of the parade, the 4-H County Fair Parade, which we have up on WILO TV. You can also see the Queen Contest, and then we will archive this as well. We've had more than our fair share of challenging weather this week. Fortunately, it's holding off. We might escape the torrential rains that we had yesterday at this time tonight, although I do see some threatening clouds to the south. I'll show those to you over in the Antioch area. You can see some clouds right there. Those look a little challenging. So we'll see what happens. Don't like the weather, just stick around for a bit and it'll change anyway. Frankfurt Hot Dog Festival will be coming up the last Friday and Saturday of July, just in a couple of weeks. Shine 99 will be doing a remote broadcast from in front of the Iron Block building Saturday at 10 o'clock till noon. Join us for that. They'll have street vaulting, and they have a historic traveling display that showcases the automotive and racing heritage of Indiana. That's new. It's not only new to this festival, but that particular display is new to the state of Indiana. This will be one of the first stops that particular display will be making, and it'll be open and free all weekend long. There'll also be street vaulting and wrestling. And at 2 o'clock on, I want to say, I can't remember whether it's Friday or Saturday, but I know it's 2 p.m. at the Scanta Theater. You'll be able to see the Blue Chips in the library at the Scanta Theater. And then shortly after that at 2:30, there will be the Frankfurt's Got Talent from the stage at downtown Frankfurt, the Frankfurt Hot Dog Festival. Simultaneously, the Indiana Family Star Party will be taking place out at Camp Cullum that very same time. Normally people from about 5 states come from all over to enjoy the Star Party at Camp Cullum, the largest non-university owned telescope facility in the state of Indiana. That's between Frankfurt and Mulberry at Camp Cullum, owned by the children of Clinton County, by the way. So let's see if we can sneak a peek of what's going on out there using our time travel zoom lens here. Oh, I think I see a bit of a horse. You see, I think that might be Melissa there, doing some observing. You see some tail swishing going on, and they'll fill us in on the details when they get in. Then we'll work on the other 4 species right here, and we will not have to depart. Someday maybe we'll have a separate remote camera facility to capture a camera 2-shot out there. We'll work toward that. It's not the first time I've wanted a second camera to dissolve to. Helping us with the description tonight, you can look forward to hearing from Mackenzie Paget, who also happens to be the first runner-up in the Queen's Court, and she won this in 2014, and she will be discussing what's going on with Melissa Miller as well. If you just tuned in, feel free to take a screenshot of this and put it on Facebook and let people know, hey, Supreme Showman is going on right now live at WILOTV.com. WILOTV.com. Probably be going on for another hour and a half or so. Let your friends and neighbors know if they want to see the Supreme Showman one of the premier events at the Clinton County Fair. They can watch it live on WILOTV.com. Also, we will have up an archive of the llama challenging course, that kind of the obstacle course, if you will, on the senior division. We will upload that as well at different stations, and it was fun to see the llama try to cope with that course. And some of those some of those stops, stations, if you will be probably showing up at the state fair. Elaine Bravant is active statewide in llama showing. She had over 40 llama participants in the fair just in Clinton County this year. And also on Wednesday, we will be doing a live video feed, a broadcast on Shine99TV.com, Shine99TV.com from the Carroll County Fair for the Swine Show. And we're looking forward to doing that as well. You might recognize some of your friends and neighbors supporting the efforts of our 4-H'ers. I don't see any movement coming back from the horse arena yet. Evidently, they didn't have to worry about too many puddles out there, and the rain is held off today nicely. So we do appreciate that. 6:15 now on July 13th, 2017. The Supreme Showman. Last year, the winner was Keegan Paget, and that is actually the little brother of Mackenzie Paget. So 2014, Mackenzie Paget won, and then Roxy Newell won in 2015, and then it came back. The little brother, Keegan Paget, won last year and in 2016. So we'll see who wins tonight, the 2017 version of the Supreme Showmanship. Big thank you to Brant Hirschman, Clinton County Senator Brant Hirschman, making it possible for us to be here tonight. And here is a sketch that we had drawn for the Clinton County Courthouse. We contracted an artist to take pictures of all the 14 county courthouses and the county seats that Shine 99 serves. And then he did a line drawing of each courthouse. And this is the Clinton County version of what he put together. The Clinton County Courthouse, part of one of our Shine 99 promotion pieces. We also, on WILO TV, on Shine 99 TV, look forward to giving you all the action from Sheridan football. We'll be doing all the regular season games and postseason as well, as the Blackhawks take to the field this fall. Be here before we know it. And so you can look forward to that on Shine99TV.com. And also, Carl Kirchhoff and Don Stock will be bringing you Clinton County action on WILO 96.9 FM and WILO 1570. And giving you action from Clinton Central, Clinton Prairie, and Frankfort for football, and then add Rossville to that for basketball. And we also do some girls sports as well. One would think it might be starting to wrap up. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 contestants, I guess 5 contestants, one for each of the species. So each contestant will be competing on the horse showmanship right now. As soon as that's done, they'll take to the arena here, the livestock arena, and to compete with the other 4 species. So it'll be non-stop. Last year, horses, I think, were perhaps second or third. So I think we showed one of the species, if I'm not mistaken, and then broke a way to do the horse as well. Again, there's no way for us to show it to you unless we rig up a remote camera, which will hopefully be in the offing someday. There's some ice cream. So part of the county fair right there. The Lions Club. He's tempting one of his friends. Lions Club has an ice cream booth there. There's a bit of Americana. Is that a Norman Rockwell shot, maybe? If you just tuned in, welcome to the Supreme Showman competition, Clinton County Fair Style 2017, made possible by Clinton County Senator Brandt Hirschman on WILOTV.com, live and archived worldwide, bringing you one of the most coveted titles of the fair, which would be the Supreme Showman. And once this is won, regardless of your age, you're no longer eligible to compete in this contest in future years. Once you've won it, it's a one-time deal, and you can retire. If you get second or third place, you can compete again the next year. But the Supreme Showman goes on to state and one and done in Clinton County. I still see some horses moving as they compete. You can see out there. If you are looking at this on the archive, you'll be able just to scroll through to the next species competition by scrolling the bar at the bottom of the screen to select the view that you want to watch. You'll notice up here there are different boards showing Grand Champion Rabbit, for instance. Last year was R.J. Van Tiernan, and in 2015 it was Brad Pyle. That was for the Rabbit Exhibition, and then Rabbit Commercial. Last year Katie Crawford, and the year before Grace Mattingly. She won it 2 years in a row for the 4-H Grand Champion Rabbit. And then over on the next slide, you can see Grand Champion Chicken 4-H. The exhibition in 2014 was Matthew Wilson, followed in 2016 by Anna Albaugh. And the commercial division for the Grand Champion Chicken, Matthew Wilson. He won both the commercial and the exhibition, and then Anna Albaugh. So she double winners, double time. And then in terms of the llama competition for llama points, last year Kyle Rapp, and in 2015 Caitlin Harshbarger won, and you can see the other winners there for the Llama Club High Point Individual. As far as tonight is concerned, the winner tonight will proudly have their name displayed on this board right here. You can see it's labeled Supreme Showman. There is Keegan Paget listed at 2016. So tonight's winner will be directly below Keegan Paget's name, 2017, to be determined here within the next hour or hour and a half. You'll see the first Supreme Showman was Todd Caldwell, then Jason Stillwell. I think I saw Jenny Stillwell across the way, Jason's wife. That's 1987. In 1988, Janine Brock won the Supreme Showman, followed in 1989 by Susie Martin. Then in 1990, Julie Thompson won Supreme Showman, followed by Scott Smith in 1991. That was the year of the ice storm. 1992, Matt Neal. 1993, Carrie Rule. And in 1994, Tad Thompson won the Supreme Showman, Clinton County. And Carrie Neal won the 1995 Supreme Showman, followed by Aaron Selke in 1996. Then Craig Spray won in 1997. 1998, Lynn Walker. Amanda Crawford won Supreme Showman in 1999. Troy Walker won in 2000. And then Blakely Clements won this contest that we're showing tonight. Blakely Clements won in 2001. Trista Bailey won in 2002. Then 2003, Cody Stinson. 2004, Jeffrey Cole. Brian Griffin was your winner in 2005, followed by Tori Schwartz in 2006. Kinsey Selke won in 2007. 2008, Jill Griffin. Then 2009, Kayla Mawson. Chad Griffin won, probably related to Jill would be my guess. Another maybe big sister, little sister would be my guess. And that was in 2010. Big sister, little brother, rather, similar to what happened last year. Jacqueline Bush, 2011, followed then by Kaylee Staley at 2012, Lindsay Davis, 2013, and then we're going to have on air tonight, assisting us once we get back into the building here, Mackenzie Paget. She's also the runner-up for the Fair Queen contest, and she will join us tonight. And Roxy Newell, 2015. Then the new board right there. Last year, Supreme Showman of the Year, Keegan Paget, 2016. And we still have the video up on WILO TV. You can go back and see last year's entire contest if you take a look on the archive over on the right-hand side of the channel at WILO TV. Well, here they come. They now are making their way back to the arena, show arena. As you can see, we have the group coming back, quite a crowd. That's going to pretty much pack out this place here once we get back. And there's Mackenzie. She'll be joining us here pretty soon, too. So they're going to tell us all about it, and you're going to hear less of me talking and a whole lot more of Melissa and Mackenzie. I'll guarantee you. And they can tell us. They can tell us what happened. I'm excited to. What's that? Looks like the weather held out for you guys. And there we go. What do you think, Melissa? Go pretty well?
Yeah, I think so. I think it went really well. Now, Mackenzie, because our audience can't, for obvious reasons, we can't haul the cameras and everything out there, give them an idea of what these contestants just went through, what it actually is like to do the horse part.
So what they do is they all get a pattern, and they all have to do the same pattern. Normally it's a simple pattern. They have to walk and trot. Sometimes they have to set them up a couple of times, and then they also have to pivot them. And with that, they do that pattern, and then normally they stop for the judge, and then they do what they call, I was always taught it was called the pie. So like the horse is set up into 4 different quadrants, and then with that the judge walks around, and as the judge walks around those quadrants, you have to move with that too. And then once that's done, you just exit the ring. So every individual goes at their own individual time.
So quadrants, we're talking the front part of the horse,
Yes.
both sides, and then the rear of the horse.
Right.
And then you said that the contestant has to move. So what does that entail when they're talking about the moving around the quadrants of the horse?
Right, so say that both the judge and the contestant are on the front of the animal, then they need to be on separate halves. So the contestant would be on the left front half, and the judge would be on the right front half. And as the judge moves to the back right half, the contestant would then step around the front of the horse and go to the right front half of the horse. And it just goes in that continuous circle until the judge is back to that same corner.
Yeah, now they're introducing the judge to the crowd, and now that we've got the horse portion over with, we're going to be moving to the lamb portion. So why don't you go ahead and give, while the judge is addressing the crowd, why don't you give them an idea of what's going to be taking place next?
Right, so each of them gets a sheep, and then they just go on the ring like any other show. So they'll come in one at a time, but they'll be following each other, and then they'll set up facing the crowd in the large set of bleachers. They'll set up the animal with all 4 feet square on each corner, and then the judge will come around. And normally for sheep, you go around and you feel the animal first, and then from there the judge may walk the sheep to the profile so they can view them from that angle. And sometimes the judge will either ask a couple of questions, or at that time they also switch the sheep. And they do that for multiple reasons, just to see if you can handle a different individual's animal, or if there's a couple of sheep that aren't behaving and are acting up, they want to give every contestant that same advantage. So in that case, they would switch.
Give our listeners an example of a possible question that they might be asked.
It can range from different body parts. So the 4 main body parts that they ask are shoulder, rack, loin, and leg, and those just start obviously at the shoulder, which is at the front of the lamb, and then you just work back. Other questions, maybe if they have a breeding ewe, they could ask gestation, which is how long they carry, or the estrus cycle. They also ask sometimes what the average weight of a market lamb would be.
Now the contestants are actually getting their instructions, just like you said, how they're going to take their animals in, how they're going to line up.
Right.
And your mother's been doing this show for a long time,
each of them have a number on the back, and so that number coordinates with every animal they get, and that's what she's explaining to them, is how the animals go in order with the coinciding number on their back.
And then now the animal selection, I don't know how much you know about this because you haven't been out of it that long, but I also know your mom helps with this.
Right.
Now that you and your brother are done, she helps with this. And when they select the animals, of course, none of the animals are shown by any of our contestants. They've never seen these sheep before until they come in.
Correct.
How are those animals selected? I mean, do we just draw numbers and that's how this is the one number 1 gets, this is the one number 2 gets?
Right. So what it is how they get the animals is normally the superintendent just takes whatever animals are left for the auction tomorrow night, and then from there they just randomly grab 5 animals, and then I don't think the order that the animals line up in outside of the ring is in any order, but then obviously the contestants, they drew their numbers to get in that order.
Okay, now explain a little bit about we see everybody setting their sheep up, and explain a little bit. They're all market lambs, if
Correct.
I'm not, as I say, from what I can see from this angle, they're all market lambs. Why don't you explain a little bit about how to set a market lamb and why they're set and showing them the way they are?
Right. So basically, when you have market lambs and they're facing the way that they are now, you want to get those back legs square on the corners and set first, because that's the way the judge is facing. And so you want that judge to see the best angle of your animal at all times. And then you do the same thing up front, and you set the front feet on their corners as well. And they do this just that way. Market animals are supposed to be square in the way they look, and so if you set those feet down on those corners, it makes it easier to see how square those animals are.
And we'll actually be able to see that squareness when they do a profile,
Right.
because they're level across the top, and it does actually look like they're put in a box.
Right.
So,
Right, and as you can see, the contestants, as the judge moves around, most of them switch sides as well, because you want the animal to always be between you and the judge.
now just in this kind of show, and I know you've shown sheep all your life, and I can remember you probably showed in your diapers, I can remember that. But showing sheep, how difficult is it to just walk in the ring and pick it up? I mean, I know for you, showmanship is huge.
Right, absolutely. Like for most of these individuals, obviously they've never touched a sheep besides the practice for this contest, so this is way out of their comfort zone. And I think sheep is one of the hardest species to learn just because it's so different. I mean, you don't have a halter or show stick or whip or anything to set them up on, and so it's all about you and how you control that animal with your hands, and then also you have to learn to brace them. And for some kids where they're taller or shorter, it's just harder for them to learn to be able to brace and really squat down into that animal.
Yeah, the size of the animal makes a big difference,
Right.
depending on the size of the showman, that's for
Yes.
sure. I know just in watching you, fluidity of motion is huge, and if these kids are trying to move too quick, that can actually make them
Right.
nervous, right?
Yeah, I mean, the smoother you are, and you don't want to be extremely slow to where the point that the judge is waiting on you, but at the same time, you don't want to be so fast that you spook the animal. So you kind of have to find that happy medium of how fast to move around your animal. And that's part of it, is just sensing what the animal is like and how well they respond.
Now, obviously, we're looking at market animals, but for you as a showman, and especially a sheep showman as well, what's easier to show, market or breeding?
I prefer to show breeding is, just because to me it's a lot easier. You don't always have to be into them and bracing. You kind of get that break to where you can either stand off to the side, or in my case, I normally squat down beside them just so I am hidden and all that the judge can see is that sheep standing right in front of them.
Exactly. Of course, in this case, they want to be seen, but
Right.
but you're right. That's the best way, and the best showman is the best showman showcases their animal.
Right.
And
correct.
so even in the case of showing a market lamb where you have to brace, you still have to know how to showcase that animal.
Right.
I think that for not knowing, and I think the majority of them out there have not shown sheep,
Yes.
I think they're doing fairly well.
Oh yeah, I think they're all doing really well. None of them seem to look nervous. They all look like they're relatively comfortable for their situation. And I think that's great, knowing that these 5, they look comfortable with the animals, and that just really shows that they deserve to be out here for
Yeah.
Supreme Showman.
And we saw that as well with the horses, because the horses
Yes.
are big, they're intimidating, they're a powerful animal, and
Right.
if you even let them sense
Exactly.
that you're afraid
yes.
of them, then you're going to have problems.
Right. Well, and I think horses can be difficult too, especially you don't know the pattern until you walk out there, and therefore you're nervous on top of trying to hold a fairly large animal, and you're trying to memorize that pattern. And so it makes it super difficult to get all 3 of those things and do it correctly.
Yeah, because they're not even walked through the pattern. The
No.
cones are put out there, and then
Correct.
they're just told what they're
Yes.
what they're supposed to do. So
Yes.
there is no example whatsoever. And the
Yes.
only one who knows what's being talked about is the one who actually shows horses.
Right.
And we do have a couple of them out here that do show horses,
Yeah.
for sure. So they had a little bit of an advantage over that. Now, the swine show is always the last show of the week.
Yes.
How much of a disadvantage is that over the other shows
Right.
and getting prepped?
Right. I think they're definitely at some of a disadvantage, but at the same time, if they really want it and they work at it, most of the time the hog show's over at a decent time. I've seen a bunch of hog showmen in the past. They get out here and they work with a couple species Wednesday night, and then they also come in and they just work their butts off all day Thursday. And I know some of the other species winners that work earlier in the week, they wait to do the same thing. That way it's fresh in their memory.
Now, I know you're a freshman in college now.
Yes.
And give our listeners a perspective of, you won this at a younger
Yes.
age, so you were able to kind of enjoy the last couple of years of 4-H. But let everybody know how old you were when you did win this contest.
Well, the first year I was in, I believe I was a third-year member. So I think that would make me about 12 years old. And at that time, I was really little, and so I was very nervous. And at that time, I wasn't out there to win. I was just out there for experience and to have fun. And then as I got older, I wanted to go back in. And so I was in it a couple more times, and then I actually won as an 8-year member. And so it was pretty cool to be in it a couple times before to have that experience, but at the same time, it was also a relief to know that my hard work had finally paid off.
Yeah, exactly. And Keegan, what grade is Keegan in now?
Keegan will be a junior in high school.
Oh, so he basically won as a sophomore.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, he did.
So he can't one up his sister then.
Yeah.
Even though he would like to, he couldn't
Oh,
do it.
yeah.
So, yeah, he always denies that he learned everything from you, but we know better.
I know. I'd like to say I have a big part in his experience and his learning, but I also know that he watched other people just so he wouldn't have to compete with me.
Okay, right now they're setting him up in the profile exactly like what you were talking about, and
Right. So here, now obviously it looks like the judge is done judging, and that's why they're all with their backs to the judge. That way they can see their numbers. But if you can tell, all the sheep are still square, and that's why if you look at all 4 corners, all those feet are set on those corners to help make that animal look square.
And this part of it, with the judges trying to see the numbers on their backs, it's a little harder because they're still trying to keep that lamb set, but
Right.
yet they've got to turn completely around for that judge to see their number.
Right, and it's so funny because I remember when I was in there that even though the judge told you to turn around, you didn't always want to turn around because that you weren't sure if they were trying to trick you or if they were just done with the contest.
Now our judges actually talking a little bit about the contest and the contestants and how much fun she has. So
Yeah.
I know when they pick the judges for this, they bring them from all over the place, and they've never judged. If I remember right, they've never judged here before.
Yes.
So the only way they could possibly even know any of the kids is if they're out on the show circuit and they just happen to
Right.
show at a show. Have you
And-
ever had that happen because of your experience of doing this so many times? Have you ever had the experience of knowing one of the judges?
Absolutely. A couple times I actually knew more than just the sheep judge. I know a couple of the judges, and I think it makes it difficult for the judge and for you just knowing that you know that person from a different side of this. It makes it hard for them and for you.
Now this is the fun one.
Yes.
Everybody thinks that the cattle are the fun one because they're so big, and by fun I mean this is the entertaining one.
Yes, it
Because
is.
the goats have a definite personality of their own, and if they don't want to show, they're just not going to show.
Right.
Kind of like account executives at a radio station.
Yeah, that can happen too. Yes. I was trying to be nice, Russ. I was trying to be nice. So, but no. Now, explain as they're getting their instructions, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the judge is watching for? Because I know you have showed goats as well a little
Correct.
bit, and then also by going through this contest.
Correct. So from the looks of it, they're showing boar goats, and so it will be very similar to how you actually show a sheep. It's just instead of not having anything to hold on to, you have a chain. And the point of that chain is to keep their head and neck as high out of their shoulder as possible to make them look prettier and more presentable from the side. So you still want them to be square on all 4 corners, and if you have a wether, which it looks like
I think
most of them
Yeah,
are.
as I said, I think they tried to stay consistent in whether
Yes.
they picked boys or girls.
Yes.
For our listening audience that doesn't
Correct.
know, wethers are boys.
Right,
And,
right.
And,
And
does
are
in this
girls.
in this respect, it would be a doe if they were
Yes.
girls. So
Yes, and so for this, I was always taught that since it's still a market animal and it's very similar to a sheep, you want to go ahead and brace that animal when the judge comes to feel them.
now I know for sheep, you shear down
Mm-hmm.
as far as you can to be able to show the muscling and everything. Now, is
Right.
that similar with boar goats? Because these are meat goats. That's what
Yes.
they are raised for.
Yes, you still shear the wethers, just like you would a sheep. It's just I don't like shearing the goats where they have hair. It tends to get everywhere.
Yes. Yes, at least wool is kind of contained.
Yes, exactly. It
The only
doesn't
thing
like to
is
fly.
I'm allergic to wool, so it makes me nice and itchy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I have. That's why you guys laugh at me when I shear in long sleeves, but
Yeah,
that's why,
that's
because
why.
I'm allergic. So,
Well, that makes perfect sense then.
Now, I notice some of them have like the smaller dog collars. Some of them
Yes.
have the actual chains around their. I mean, they're showing with different types of
Right.
leashes. Now, is that just because that's what the animal has been trained to?
That
or-
would be my guess. It would just be personal preference to the actual owner of the goat, and that's what they taught their goats to be used to, and so that's what they came out here with.
Now, what's your for you showing everything like this? What was the hardest thing for you about showing goats?
I think using the chain is the hardest because you have to watch that you don't choke them but you still use the chain to make sure you get that head and neck out of their shoulder. And even though some of the goats are taught to use the chain, they don't always want to behave, and so it makes it very difficult
Yes, they
to
definitely
use it properly.
they definitely have a mind of their own, and they don't
Yes.
have a problem with letting you know it.
No, they do not.
That's the reason why I think this one's the most entertaining.
Yeah.
And you can tell when someone's having a good day if they don't have to fight or have issues with their goat.
Right. Yes. Goats
Now-
seem to be very temperamental.
Yeah, very much so. Now, when you went through this, were there any of the species that you actually had to trade off on?
Yes. We, depending on the year, we switched sheep, goats, and cattle. We never switched whips, but there was one year where the judge actually took away our whips, and we had to show using our hands or our body and just see if we could do it without that instrument.
For the pigs.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be pretty entertaining. Poor Mackenzie, everybody's looking at her and giving her a hard time because we've got her up here, but
It's okay.
there's no one better to actually explain this contest. I mean,
Well, thank you.
I honestly thought about it very hard, and when we talked about getting a former winner up here, and you were the first person I thought of, and because you, one, are very eloquent in your conversation,
Thank
and
you.
also
I appreciate it.
you just are so good at explaining everything.
I try.
As you can tell, I put her on the spot a lot, so
Yeah, I'm used to it by now.
FFA and 4-H
Yes,
has
yes.
been one of my go-to kids for years. So
Yes.
I told her I'm going to miss her when she better not move very far away because I won't be able to handle
I
it.
hope not. I hope to eventually come back. That's the goal.
And that's one of the things that I've noticed as we watch the judge actually go out there and talk to them and ask them questions about their animal. One thing I've noticed about Clinton County 4-H, and you can attest to this as far as being a 4-H'er growing up in this program.
Yeah.
Even before you were in 4-H, you were
Right.
here. And it's very family oriented.
Yes.
Here, Clinton County is big on family.
Yes.
And everybody takes care of everybody else.
Right. And I think it's also cool that with that family oriented, there's also a bunch of families who have been very successful, not only here, but on the state and national level in our county. And I think that's just awesome that we have such a great county and that all these great names, and not necessarily it's their great names that make it great. It's that they came back and they settled down here and they continued teaching what they learned to their kids and their grandkids.
Right.
And I think it's just awesome.
Well, and in this atmosphere that we have here, it's family as far as the physical part of the family part of it, but it's also almost like a society family.
Right.
Because I know in the sheep barn, and you grew up especially in the sheep barn. You grew up in all the barns, let's
Right.
face it. But in the sheep barn especially, it's nothing to go to another family and say, hey, I need help with this, or hey, I need help with this, you know, or something's wrong with my animal, what do you think? Or just going out there and helping all the kids that maybe can't afford to do a project like this.
Right.
We have a lot of families here in all the barns that help everybody else. So it's not just, it's not just the physical family per se, the blood family. It's a community.
Absolutely.
It takes a village.
Absolutely. And I think it's great because it teaches the kids and others, and it shows others that we're willing to work and we're willing to help without anything in return.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think it's awesome knowing that you have that support and that backup behind you in case something would happen.
Yeah, I agree. So, questions she might be asking about the goats.
Same, a lot of body parts. Since they're all wethers, they're probably similar to goats rather than it would being does. And since they're all the same breed, they're all boar goats. Now, if there were dairy goats or pygmy goats in here, she could ask potentially breeds. And that gets very confusing, especially in the dairy goats, because there's so many. And we actually have so many here, and some of them look very similar. And so you really have to study those breeds.
Now, I noticed she made them all switch.
Yes.
So now they've got, they got used to the one that they were already showing and its personality. Because
Right.
it really, if you're calm and cool and collected, it doesn't take that long to get used to that animal that you're
Right.
showing. But now they've got to do it all over again.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, they have to learn how to adjust to those chains as well. And that may be part of the reason she did switch them, is because a couple of them don't seem to be behaving the best, as well as they have different chains.
Right. And that gives them the opportunity to show whether or not they can actually master that animal
Right.
with the different chains and also the different personalities.
Right. And like you said, as long as they stay calm and cool and collected, it doesn't really matter. This is more, I mean, it is a showmanship contest, but it's also a character contest to see how well you can hold yourself together and how well you are willing to adapt to a new animal.
I agree. It's kind of nice, though, to know that goats have a handle,
Yeah.
whereas sheep don't have a handle. So
Yeah.
by handle, we mean boar goats actually have a little tail, and
Right.
you can use the tail to give.
Right.
to
It's
give
a lot
them little,
easier to get them going than it would be a
little
sheep.
incentive.
Yes.
So, but you can tell the ones that are really happy out there because those little tails just don't stay very still
yeah.
very often. She's actually working them over pretty good.
Yeah, she is.
So normally, I don't know about you, but what I've seen in the past is if a judge is making them work this hard, then she's having a little bit harder time distinguishing
Yes.
and separating
Yeah.
one true winner from the pack. So
Right.
that's kind of a testament to all of our 5 of our contestants that she's
Yeah.
having that difficult a time.
Absolutely. I remember a couple times it felt like with one species we were out there forever. And it just seemed like maybe they were having a difficult time between a pair or a couple of us or maybe even all of us.
Yeah,
But I think it just makes it more fun that you get to be out there longer. I don't know.
You thrive on showmanship, so yeah,
I
you would
do.
be
I
the
love
you
it.
would be the one to think it was more fun the
Oh
longer you
yeah,
get to stay.
I absolutely love showmanship.
So you talked a little bit about what your future plans are. Why don't you, while we're watching this on television there, why don't you elaborate a little bit more and talk about you're on a team now and what you're
Right.
actually doing in school.
Right. Well, this fall I will be a sophomore at Lincoln Land Community College, and that's in Springfield, Illinois. And I am on the livestock judging team there. And so, as a freshman, we get we start judging, but we don't get to go to very many contests. We go to a few little ones, and we just really get the hang of looking at livestock and being able to travel and working on reasons, trying to explain why we placed the class the way we did. And then as a sophomore, from September to November, we're gone almost every weekend traveling to national shows and even smaller contests, actually judging livestock. And so when you judge livestock, most of the time it's 10 to 12 classes, and the species would be sheep, cattle, swine, and sometimes goats. And there'll be 3 to 4 classes of each, normally only one goat class, and then within those classes there's 4 animals, and you place them in order the way that you see them from 1 to 4, and then you'll have anywhere from 4 to 8 sets of reasons, and they pick out those classes, and then you have to describe why you placed those classes that you did. And I absolutely love it. I think it's a great skill to have, and it really teaches you how to explain and not only describe livestock, but it just teaches you how to describe things in detail, as well as I get to travel around the country and look at some of the greatest livestock in the United States. And I just think that's a great experience that many kids don't get to have when they go to college. And then from there, I hope to transfer to Kansas State University to major in agriculture economics with a specialty in pre-law.
Yeah, let's just not be an overachiever there.
Not at all.
No. We finished the goat portion of the show. The judge has made her
Yes.
tabulations, and now she's addressing the crowd and talking about why she put them through the steps that she did. So we're basically we're halfway through. We've only got 2 more species to go,
yeah.
so we're actually kind of moving fairly quickly.
Right.
How does that make you feel as far as being a contestant, knowing that we've gone through this quickly, the species? I mean, what's your perspective on that?
Right. Obviously, sitting down there, it seems like it takes hours and it seems a lot longer. But by this point, I was just grateful to get through at least 3 of the species, and I knew that the next 2 would go by super fast. And then the other dreadful part, besides the waiting, was doing the question on the mic. Just because you have absolutely no idea what that question is going to be like. So that was always fun, but nerve-wracking at the same time.
I assume, since we are removing the chairs and everything, that the beef is what's going to be coming in next. So we'll be bringing cattle in. Tell us a little bit about the cattle and the difficulty of showing a calf.
I think the difficulty, they're such a large animal. I mean, they're like the size of horses, but at the same time, they're more of a boxier style, and so they weigh about the same or more than some of the horses. And cattle spook very easily, and so they can also sense like a horse whether you're scared or you're nervous. And they're also, I think that they know who their owners are, and they're very well adapted to that owner, and so they notice when their owner isn't around and they're not on that head, and so it makes the cattle nervous as well.
I know you've raised cattle as well as showed cattle before.
Yes.
Give everybody a timeline of how long each species, well, with the exception of horses, because the horses have an extended lifetime.
Right.
Each species, how long the kids actually have these calves and the sheep and the goats.
Yes, cattle actually, you have a very long time. Most people buy their calves in September or October, and then they have them until their county fair, and some even until state fair. So you're talking into late July and early August. And so that is a good portion of the year that you have cattle, whereas sheep and goats and hogs, you get anywhere from January, February, or March. And again, you only have them until the county fair or the state fair. And so you have them almost half as long as you have a cow. And obviously the cattle are a lot bigger, and so they take a lot more feed and a lot more time. And so this is a very intense project, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and it's inexpensive. I mean,
Yes,
let's be honest. It's economically, it's very challenging for parents, especially if they don't raise cattle as a family,
Right.
it can be very expensive as well.
Right.
And horses are too. I mean,
Yes.
to keep
And it makes it difficult. Most of these kids, they're more active than just cattle. I mean, they have other species, they do FFA, they do sports, they're involved in their community, and so it makes it that much more difficult for them to have cattle and be competitive and work hard and make sure they get their animals shown.
Exactly. I know, well, just in watching you and my own kids with their livestock and everything, like you said, it's a very time-consuming project. Any livestock project is. Not to
Right.
say that none of the building projects are either, but
Right.
there's just so much of your time in your life that you have to invest in livestock in order for it to pay off, so to speak.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, all our contestants have now taken charge
Yes.
of their animals, and why don't you tell us a little bit about setting up? They all, I believe, do we have all steers out there? 'Cause it's hard
no,
to
I
tell.
think the
There's a
little
couple-
black one is a heifer.
Yep, I think
And
you're right.
maybe the black one on this end, but I think so. I think
you're
we
right.
have 2 heifers in the ring.
So, okay, since we have a mix out there,
Yes.
tell our listeners a little bit about what, for the most part, because they're all beef cattle, we don't have a
Right.
dairy calf out there.
Right.
Setting the animal is about the same, but what's the judge looking for as far as respect to the way they handle them and what they're going to want to showcase differently on a female and a
Right.
male?
Right. And so on the females, some of them set them square like you would any other market animal, and then some actually bring up the inside for the first foot closest to them just a little bit, just to show. Most of them, I believe, is for udder development, and so you can see that teat size and how that udder is developing and make sure it's correct in its structure. And then obviously, like I said, for the steers, you want them square just for the same fact of any other market animal, that you need to see that squareness and that muscle.
Now, what does walking the animal show the judge?
Yeah, so for cattle, since they're a much larger animal and you have multiple ones in the ring, what they do is they walk in what's called an S curve. And so when the cattle are facing the bleachers or the people, they need to pull up, and then they kind of curve around and they kind of walk in an S curve. And then they finally end up on the side profile. And that's mainly to make more room for the cattle and the people. And then also, while you're leading cattle, you want to make sure that their head is up at all times, that you keep the halter out of the way and close, and your hand close on the halter to the face. And then you also want to make sure that your show stick is in the opposite hand of the hand that you're holding the cattle with.
Okay, now he's already switching them, so he's already
Yes.
seen something that he likes.
Yes.
And now he's trying to make it more difficult.
Right.
So I believe I've ever seen him switch that quick. I've seen
Yeah.
a judge switch that quickly.
Yeah. So it's either maybe he sees one acting up and he's worried that a kid might get hurt or something, and so he wants to go ahead and switch them, or he's just switching them for another reason. But as you can see, as they switch, they also switch not only the cow, but they also switch the comb and the show stick. And that's because you want to keep what that animal is used to. You want to keep their equipment with the same cattle. One, because not necessarily for safety reasons, but it's just because that's what that cattle is used to, and that's what their owner has taught them to be used to.
So what's the difference in the show sticks and the combs? I mean, like you said, you want to keep everything consistent with the animal,
Right.
but what's different?
Not maybe there is different heights of show sticks that they use. So maybe like that smaller black heifer, she may have a little bit shorter of a show stick where she's not as big, whereas this big black one up here may have a longer show stick just because she's a bigger animal. Also, most of the combs nowadays use plastic, so that wouldn't necessarily be as big of a deal. But since all the cattle have different hair and they haven't been on the same farm or same facility, you don't want to mix those up because it could have not necessarily diseases, but it just could have, I don't know how to explain it. Like,
Well, yeah, and not to say that any of the animals are not well taken care of,
Right.
because they are, but it's just a safety factor.
right,
It's no different than you don't share a hairbrush with somebody else.
right, exactly.
It's the same type of deal. You don't want to mix and match with
Exactly.
your animals either. And besides that, if you got to recomb something, you don't want to
Right.
take one that's got black hair in it and put it on that tan calf, because
Right.
it's not going to look good. We've got different types of cattle out there, and I think, honestly, I was going over in my head our showmen that are out there. We only have one that's not a multi-species showman, and that's Mallory Woods,
Yes.
our horse showman, and she does horses, and that's it.
Yes.
And she may do dogs too. I believe she does do dogs too as
Okay.
well. But so how much of an advantage, even though this may not be their species, how much of an advantage is it to be a multiple showman?
I think it's a great advantage just because even though this may not be your species, you're used to already showing different species at different times, and so that really helps your adaptation level and how comfortable you are with switching those animals. And so, I mean, most of these kids also that are multiple species, they do have a larger animal that they show and a smaller animal that they show. And so that really helps up too at the size of the animals they show, just for the fact that they can get used to those different sizes as well as species.
Yeah, I think you're right, because I know at least, 3 of them out there show cattle, and then
Yes.
Allie Webster actually shows horses.
Correct.
And
yeah,
so
so
that's,
they each have their own big species,
Yeah.
and then they also have their little species.
yeah, definitely. I think this really, like you said, this brings out the character. It's definitely a learning experience.
Right.
And just
Right.
prepping for this, I know Mallory has been in it before. I believe Cade's been in it before. Or is this his first
Yeah.
time? No,
Tate, yes, this is Tate's second year, I
Yeah.
believe.
Right.
This is Hannah's first year.
Right.
I
And-
think this is Corden's first year as well, and then Allie's first year as
Yeah,
well,
it's
too.
definitely Allie's first year, because
Yes.
she was sweating bullets the
Yes,
other day.
she is.
But she's handled it well.
Absolutely.
And she is. She's like you, though. She's what I've known of Allie growing up, and what she's done here in 4-H and everything. She's definitely one of those kids that. This is one of her dreams. This is a passion
Right.
for her. So she was thrilled to death to
Right.
make it this far. She's a younger kid. She's just
Yes, she is.
going into freshman year.
She will be a sophomore.
Okay.
Yes, she will be a sophomore.
So that's exciting as well.
Right. And as you can tell, the judges actually taken away their show sticks. And like I said earlier, I had a judge do that to me, except for they took away our whips and the pigs. And so it's really interesting just to see how they can work without the equipment that they've been taught to use or that they're used to, as well as how well their cattle have been worked with and what they can do to adapt to that challenge.
Exactly. Because if the cattle have never been worked with without a show stick, then that's going to be an added challenge, because they're
Right.
so used to being told what to do with that show
And
stick.
again, it shows the character of the kid, how well they can stay cool and collected with that animal before they get frustrated because the animal has decided not to behave.
Now, do you remember what year Tate is in as far as 4-H goes?
I believe he will be a sophomore, so that's
So we've actually got a pretty young crowd out
7
here,
years, yes.
other than Hannah.
Hannah.
Hannah is our 10-year member.
Hannah's a 10-year member.
And I don't believe Mallory is a 10-year member yet. I
No.
think she's got at least 1 or 2 more years left.
Yeah, I think she's an 8-year member this year, if I'm remembering right.
So this is kind of like one of the youngest classes we've actually had. for the
Last
most
year
part.
was also very young. I know there wasn't a 10-year member at all in there.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of cool for them to have that experience, but it was also very interesting not having an older member in there to kind of help the younger kids.
So what do you attribute that to for Clinton County to be able to produce this kind of caliber showman
young
this
age.
at this age?
I think it's awesome. I mean, to know that we have showmen that are competing in Supreme at such a young age, it just shows how well how much they have worked with their animals and how long they have been showing. I mean, most of these kids have been showing since they were little and since they could walk, and that just shows that they're excited and they want to be competitive and they love showmanship, and I think that's great. And even I've noticed if you go down to State Fair, many of these kids do super well in their divisions in showmanship at State Fair, and some have even won in the past, and I think that's just cool, attributing that they're all from Clinton County again.
Well, and one of the things that me as an adult and as a parent that I have noticed with all of these kids out here, and you as well, you and your brother as well, and other kids that have been, their names are on the board back here.
Yeah.
And we have several of them that are actually back in the county.
Right.
In fact, we were just talking about Blakely Clements the other day and how he's on the board back here, and he came back this year, and he was actually working with some of these kids out here late last night.
Yes, he was.
Teaching what he knew and giving them a helping hand. But we see that in our county a lot. There's no, the competitiveness is left in the ring.
Right, exactly.
And that's
like with
rare.
that, I mean, I've noticed some of these kids, they actually work together and they help each other with the species that they know what they're good at, and then they go ask questions from the other competitors just to kind of get a good idea of what's going to happen. And I think that's great that they can still be competitive in the ring, but they're willing to help each other and work with each other outside of the ring.
Well, and the fact that, and you see it when it's all over with, and you know it's sad to say, but there can only be one winner.
Right.
That's just the way it is.
Right.
But you see it when it's all over with. There's no one that's not happy for the winner. Yeah, they're disappointed that they didn't win, but they're also happy for the one who did. So,
yes.
And I've been to these competitions in some other counties, and it's not like that always.
No, it's not.
Clinton County is rare.
Right. And I think it's so great that people are like that here. And I mean, I know we've hit it on a bunch tonight, but character, again, that really shows that, yeah, they're disappointed, but at the same time, they're also happy for the winner. And most of them know that they have more of a chance the following year. And maybe if they work just that much harder, it will be their turn.
Yep, exactly. Well, I think he's getting close. He's grabbing his clipboard, so that means that we are getting very close to being done.
Yes.
Very much so. So
yeah.
They're all got to turn around so he can see their numbers. And the one nice thing about the numbers is the anonymity. These judges do not know names unless they have somehow seen them, like you said, in a show on another level.
Right.
They have no clue who these kids are, and that also is an attribution to this particular show, and especially this fair, because I know they try really, really hard to go out there and find those judges that aren't familiar with kids from Frankfort and from Clinton County, Indiana.
Exactly. And I've also noticed that it seems to be that most of the judges that come in and judge Supreme, they are a little bit younger. And some people aren't so sure about that, but judging in college currently, I think it's great just because it's showmanship, and so you're not necessarily judging the animal, you're just judging the showman. And that makes it not as nerve-wracking for the judge and for the kids. Just that way you can get in the ring and be on a mic before you actually have to judge an actual class.
Well, and the other scenario to it too is just because they're young does not mean that they're not at the top of their game.
Exactly.
And all these judges that are here, even if they're still in college like you are, they've been doing this all their lives.
Exactly.
They wouldn't be on those livestock judging teams if they hadn't been.
Right. They know what they're doing, and they just want that experience like every other judge has when they're older. And so I think it's a great way for them to get that experience.
He just mentioned how intense it was, so
I know.
and that's good. We want to hear that from our judges.
Right,
we want
exactly.
To know that
we want to hear that
is,
it's a tight race and that they're all doing a great job, and it really boosts those kids' confidence just in case. I mean, obviously they're all nervous. Most of them, none of them show all 5 species, and so they're going to have that one species where they get confused. And it's really just nice to hear that from the judges, that you are doing a good job and that everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, I was looking at the board earlier, and I really don't think there is anyone on that board back there that did show all 5. And of course, horses were actually introduced later down
Right.
the road. When this first started out, we just had 4 species.
Right.
And even then, I have to rack my brain, and I'm getting older, so it's not easy. But I can't even remember whether or not we actually had goats at the very beginning of this. It may have just been the 3 main species, and then horses came into it later, as well as goats, as the numbers came up.
Yeah.
So,
Well, and I think that's also interesting that you say that, because at the state fair, it's just sheep, cattle, and hogs. That's all they do in Supreme.
right, and I honestly believe, I'd have to go back and find the old rule books,
Yeah.
but I believe that is the way it was when it started here. I was kind of looking at the names back there, and we'd have to. I know Janine Brock's out there watching somewhere, and not to point fingers, but she is up towards the top of the board, so we could, she would be one of them that we could ask to see. Or I know Stillwell's here somewhere too.
Yeah.
You know he's here watching somewhere.
Yeah.
So
That would be interesting.
it would be an interesting fact to find out. Yes. Definitely. So.
And it looks like we're to the last species of tonight with the hogs.
Now tell everybody what they're doing right now. They're in with their pigs, but what are they doing?
Yeah, so what they're doing is these pigs were brought in, I believe, at the same time as the cattle. So they've been in those pens for a little while, and so most of them are probably tired because they just showed yesterday, and so they each have a spray bottle and a brush. And so some of those pigs might have laid down, and so they have gotten them up, and they're just spraying them off and cleaning them up a little bit. And then also, most pigs, when you show them, they are either watered down or they have some type of spray or shine on them to make them look shiny and catchy for the crowd and for the judge. And so they're just using that water to cool them off. And hopefully they're getting acquainted with their hogs and maybe looking over the animal. I know a big question in the hogs is, can you read the ear notch? And so some of them might be looking, trying to figure out what their ear notch is, or maybe even the breed of the pig.
That's a very good point. Now explain how to read an ear notch, because I know you know how to do that.
Yeah. So as you are facing the pig, the left ear is the litter number, and the right ear is the number of the pig. And so there's different notches based on the way you're looking at the pig. And on the left ear, if I remember right, it goes 1 is at the very bottom closest to the face, and then about a little ways up is 3. And then on the very tip, if you have a large operation, would be 81. And then 9 is on the upper part of the ear, and then 27 is on the upper part of the ear closest to the face. And then it's the same on the right ear for the pig number, except for there's only 1, 3, and 9, because most of the time you don't have more than 15 to 20 hogs in a litter, so you don't need that 27 or 81.
Right. Yeah, if you had a pig that had that many, that pig wouldn't be around.
Yeah, there would be something wrong.
That pig would be the size of a calf.
Absolutely.
So, but now I noticed Tate's out there. He's trying to make sure his pig has his head up.
Yes.
Oh, and why is that? Why is it there? And Hannah's doing the same thing. She just tapped it underneath the chin to get the head up. Why is that important?
Yeah, so most of the time, obviously you saw on the other animals, the goats have the chains to keep their head up, cattle have halters to keep their head up, and then with a sheep you just hold them as far as you can with trying to keep their head up. So with pigs, you don't really have that hold on their head, and you want that head up. It just makes them walk better. They balance better from the profile, and so they're really level in that top line, and they just look prettier overall.
I know balance was very big in the hog show yesterday. The judge kept talking about balance.
Yes, absolutely.
Balance. for those who don't understand what balance is when you're looking at an animal, when you're judging, what does balance mean to you?
Right. Well, balance, I think, comes from an attractive standpoint. And you just, when you look back or when you step off of a class and just evaluate the animals, I think balance comes up to the front of your priorities, just because those animals that are normally balanced, they catch your eye right off the bat. And they just look, they kind of have a pretty look from the profile, and they just look like they're a show animal, and they kind of look like they should win.
And then from a female perspective, especially, that has if they've got good balance and they've got good profile, then more than likely they're going to be good in production, to introduce into a production.
Absolutely. Those normally are your better reproductive animals that produce those better animals down the line as well.
Now this one can be fun as well, because a lot of times weather affects the way pigs work.
Yes. Well, and just knowing that the hog show is yesterday, most of these hogs remember exactly where the gate is to leave. And so they all try to get to that corner as fast as possible. And so it really makes it a challenge for the contestants to try to keep those hogs away from the corner without them running or running into other contestants.
Yeah, it's almost like it's got a homing device in it.
Exactly.
They definitely know
exactly
the way home, back to the feed.
Right. They know that they can get back to that pen and go to sleep, and no one will bother them.
Okay, now what did the judge just ask them to do then?
I believe it looks like she's starting to pin different hogs, and so she gives them a specific, I'm not sure if she's giving them a specific pin or if they were just supposed to start at either end and then the last one goes in the middle. That's what looks like is happening. And so with that, gates and gate manner comes into an important role when you show hogs. You always want to have your gate open before you get there, and you always want to shut your gate right behind you. As well as when you exit the ring, you want to make sure you're able to close that gate behind you. No matter where your hog ends up, you just go find it.
I know when we get done with this portion, the judges are going to have to deliberate. There's going to be, like you said, they're going to be asked questions, and they're going to have to answer those questions. A lot of times that question's the tiebreaker.
Right.
Their answers to that. One of the things that we might do as well, we do have some other past winners here, because a lot of them come back for this.
Yes.
Even if they're not in the county per se to stay, a lot of them will come back just to watch, because this contest means so much to them over the years.
I mean, it is a really big part, and even though it doesn't take that long, it only takes a couple hours, but everybody knows that Supreme Showmanship is on Thursday night, and most of those winners try to come back and watch just because it meant so much to them to be in it and to even win. And some of those contestants that didn't win but were very close, they still come back to watch just because it was so important in their 4-H career as well.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of fun to watch as a spectator, but just to go through that whole thing as a contestant, I can't even imagine what it was like for you guys.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, they have to talk on the mic at the end, and that's normally just a tiebreaker. And I think it takes the edge off a little bit knowing it's a tiebreaker, and if you mess up, hopefully they won't have to use it, but at the same time, it still gets you in front of a crowd, on a mic, having to answer questions, and it also it really helps you and to see how much knowledge you really know about your species or about 4-H in general.
Exactly, I agree. Now she's brought them all back out, and like you said, gate manner.
Yes.
All of them made sure that they closed the gate behind them. And how important is that if you forget to close the gate?
It's very important. For one fact, obviously, as you can see, the gates are actually part of the ring. And so if you don't close that gate, there could be a pig that runs in there, or somebody could trip, or the hog could hit it and trip and hurt themselves. And so it's just very important that you shut that gate.
Some of them are beginning to get just a little antsy.
Yes.
They're finding that corner now.
Yes,
just
they
like
are.
you were talking about.
They're getting tired, and they're learning where the corner is. And if you notice, some of the contestants are trying to get out and away and back into the middle of the ring to try to keep their pigs away.
Well, and she actually changed some of them around because
Right.
I just noticed that's not the one that Corden was showed.
Yes.
And Hannah has a
Yeah,
different
and
one
I
too
think
as
that's
well.
part of the reason she switched them is to try to see maybe on a different hog they could keep that pig out of the corner more.
And right now only one is behaving.
No.
And now here they come. Now they're all coming back out. Now when you were showing pigs, because I know pigs was like almost your next love,
Yes.
did you ever give them treats?
I gave them marshmallows and Oreos were the treats that I used to give them.
Now, did you use those? And you can give away secrets now because you're not showing.
Exactly.
Did you ever use any of those
Right.
while you were showing?
Never when I was actually in the ring, but at home and back of the pins, I gave them treats a lot, and that's actually how I trained them to walk them at home. I would coax them out of the pin with a marshmallow, and then once they got out of the pin, they got a marshmallow, and that's how I taught them to get on the trailer as well. I would set a marshmallow just far enough away they would have to step up to reach it, but not so close that they could reach it while they were on the ground.
Well, seeing as how my kids aren't here and I could actually give this secret away. My kids, you used a whip.
Yes.
My kids used a pipe.
Yes.
And if you looked really close at their pipes, and there's enough age difference that
Yeah.
you didn't show against Carrie, but if you looked at the end of their pipe, there was just a tiny piece of clear tape over it, and that's because the marshmallow was in the end of the pipe, and it was taped over
yeah?
so they could still smell it,
But they couldn't
but
get
they
it.
couldn't get to it.
That's
And that's
hilarious.
how they kept their nose up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know some people also use licorice, but
Yes.
I could never get my pigs to eat licorice. I tried and tried.
Yeah, that's an acquired taste, and
Yes.
when a pig's turning it down, you know you're.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's something you need to stay away from.
Exactly.
Just a few trade secrets out there now. So you younger members, if you're listening, then
Make sure you're paying attention.
Yep, that's right. You never know what you're going to learn here in these
Right.
broadcasts.
Exactly.
And when we get a little farther along, I got Blakely Clemens standing down here beside him, and we're gonna drag him up here. So I think he's already been forewarned that he's going to get drug up here as well. So, but we'll get him up there. And now our judge is giving her remarks and talking about what she was looking for and explaining to the crowd as well and why she was doing what she was doing. Well, it's almost over. So
Yeah.
what's going through our contestants' heads right now?
Right. Most of the time, I'm sure they're still a little bit nervous just because they have that question, and then they have that wait where we introduce our 10-year members and do some other awards. But at the same time, I'm sure they're all feeling relief that it's finally over, and they're hopefully thinking that they did a great job and they're confident in what they did.
Exactly. And I know if we look behind us here, all our 10-year members are all kind of lined up here. They know that this is where they come and they get recognized, and we have a couple of scholarship recipients too
Yes,
as well. The
yes.
scholarships are given away, and I know you were on the receiving end of a 10-year award. And,
I was.
And so you've been through this.
Yes, I was.
And it's quite a deal to do 10 years of 4-H. That's a big commitment.
Right, it is. And it's kind of sad to see because I remember when I was little, this whole ring, the outside edge would be filled with 10-year members. And now you can see that those numbers are kind of dwindling. And it just is kind of sad to see because, I mean, I know for me, 4-H was a big part of my life. And it always will be just because I had so many memories and it taught me so much. And I wish more of these kids would stick with it just because I think they could have the same experience and opportunities.
I agree. Our contestants are introducing themselves and they're actually drawing their questions now. So
Yes.
I don't know if we can actually pick them up, but we're going to kind of go silent here for just a little bit. For those of you who don't know, that was Hannah McFalls. She's a 10-year member. And now Corden Selke
Yes.
is up next.
Yes.
My question was, who has been the most influential person in your parade career? To answer that question, the most influential person in my parade career has been my dad. Because he also won the spring championship. One day would like to do that too. And he's always looking out for us. He tells us what we need to do, and normally it's the right answer whether we argue with him. And overall, he's probably the most influential person in my parade career.
Mentioned that his dad was the most influential person in his 4-H career.
Well, and Aaron was a 10-year member, and Aaron's dad was also a 10-year member. So again, we're into the third generation.
Yes.
This is Allie Webster that's up next.
My question was, how would you talk positive about the industry if they were to came up to you here to say that? I really talk about the 4-H in general, how they're positive against it, and things to do. Even if they don't show livestock, there's a lot of devoted to things to do if they show livestock. It gives them a chance to kind of rise and shine and prove who they are. It also empowers them to do their best. And even though if they don't get to the first place that they need, they always have next year. It always just gives them a reinforcement of great mind thinking right and right.
I think so far our contestants are handling their questions rather well.
Oh yeah, and they're doing a great job of answering them. They don't seem nervous at all.
What year was 4-H founded?
Hey, at least he was honest.
What year was 4-H founded? I don't know, but I'll look it up and I'll let you know what I've done.
I know.
If you don't know, I think honesty is the key. If you don't know
Honest.
just
You're right.
Yeah, honesty is key.
That's right. Because there's somebody that's going to know that answer out there.
actually, I know the answer.
Why does that not surprise me?
And I think all of them were my competition because they are all shining in their own vision and they're all right. So thank you.
What was the question on that one?
I believe the question was, who do you think your biggest competition was to?
And she said,
All of the contestants because they all did great in their own divisions.
interesting questions.
Yeah. And it's kind of nice to see that the questions were all based towards family and 4-H and not towards the actual industries, because they've already answered those questions when they were out there with the judges. So to answer the same questions or same type of questions in front of the crowd is just kind of pointless, because there's people out there from different industries, so they're not necessarily going to know what the kids would be talking about anyway. So, but 4-H and family is something that they will know.
There's the judge powwow right there.
Yep. Yep, they are all conferring.
They're just going over and making sure. Obviously, they all did their own individual placings, but now they're kind of talking about the questions and just to make sure they all agree with who's how the overall placing is going to be.
Our 10-year members are being honored now. We've got I think we've got close to 30 again this year. I know
believe so.
we've been kind of staying in the 30s. Sometimes we get up into the 40s, and there's a few years that we've dropped a little bit lower than that. But
Yeah.
that's still, like you said, that's a lot of kids to stick with it with now with everything that kids have to do, not only school wise but sports wise. And sports is now all year round. It's not just during the season while you're in school. And it's a huge commitment to make that 10 years. And for a lot of them, and I know you as well, it's more than 10 years because you start out in minis, and now we actually start out in clover beds where they actually can start as a kindergartner and work all the way through their senior year. So that's a big deal. Now there's a couple of awards that are given tonight besides the senior award. I know we have some scholarships, but there's also the 10-year award. And do you remember what the 10-year award is?
Not
There's
very
one.
accurately.
There's one given for each female, and one male and one female. And the 10-year award is given to the almost overachiever in 4-H projects, because it's actually given to the ones who complete the most projects throughout their career. Which I had one of and I actually had two of those. I didn't even know my son did that many until he got the.
Yeah, well, that's awesome.
It was pretty interesting. It shocked me, but anyway, and then like I said, the scholarships as well, because we do have state scholarship winners, and then we also have a couple of scholarships that are given in the county. In fact, one of those scholarships, if I remember right, is kind of family oriented, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
I'm referring to the Sink family, which our Miss McKenzie is part of that family, and they have been giving a scholarship for years for 4-Hers for seniors, and it's nice to see. That's just another part of families giving back.
Right.
And I know we've got the auction going on tomorrow, and tell everybody give everybody an idea of what you did, like for your auction money. I mean, I know obviously part of it went to college because here you are, but even at a young age, starting out, what does that mean to you to have these people come and buy your animal?
Oh, it means a lot to me, just knowing that these people come and bid on my animals, knowing that I put in effort all summer long and even some into the spring, especially when I had cattle in fall and winter, and it just meant so much knowing that my other people could see the hard work that I put into my animals and the effort and how hard I tried. And it didn't really matter the number that they gave me. I was just glad that they were willing to bid on my animals, because that's the money that I was able to use the following year to help buy my animals again. And so that just meant that obviously the more I got, the better animals I could buy, but it didn't matter because I was going to buy animals no matter what. It was just that helped me so much more than what I could do on my own.
Exactly, and it's not just the animal projects. I mean, the whole 4-H program needs support, not only in the animals but also in the building, where if nothing else, sponsoring awards for these kids' accomplishments. You can give that way. If you can't help monetarily, you can volunteer. We can always use volunteers, not only in the barns, but also we can use volunteers in the building projects. And I know Karen's worked very hard to get leaders, project leaders. Not only do we have our township leaders, but we also have project leaders now. And trying to get project leaders for every project. Someone who maybe specializes. Well, just a good example. Welding is a new project. Last year was the first year for it, and my son-in-law is actually has his own welding business, and he actually was one of them who helped write the contest. And now he comes back and judges, but he works with the teachers at our outer schools to teach these kids. And also Jesse Davis, who's the project leader, who's a ag teacher at Rossville, puts on a clinic. So they work together and develop that. But project leaders are needed everywhere.
Well, like you said, those leaders, they're volunteers. I mean, they take time out of their own schedule and their own busy lives to come help these kids and make sure their projects are done successfully and done correctly, and that also this fair gets off without a hitch. And so I think it just shows how willing these people are to volunteer their own time to help out the 4-H program.
And that all goes back to the family aspect, because if you look around here and you see all the volunteers that are out here, some of them are parents, some of them are grandparents, some of them are like my husband and myself. You know, our kids are out now, but we still feel like a part of the program, and we still want to give back to the program. So, and you know, eventually, yes, my grandson will be showing something. We don't know yet what, but he's little enough that he hasn't made up his mind yet whether he wants to do livestock or not. But it's, you know, that'll be 4th generation coming up with him, because our parents were actually in the program here as well. So it's, yeah, that's kind of scary to realize how old I am.
So awesome. And I mean, I know that my great-grandparents and my grandparents showed and grew up in this county, and then my parents actually didn't. My mom grew up in Fayette County, and my dad grew up in Boone County. But I think it's so awesome that even though they didn't grow up here, my grandparents, their parents did, and then I got to grow up here. And so I think it's cool how they still ended up back in this county despite not actually growing up here.
But they were also part of the program, and that made, you know, even 4-H anywhere is still a good character builder, and leadership skills and life skills are developed. And yes, I remember, in fact, my husband and I were talking last night. We were actually sitting and talking about your grandparents, because he actually showed cattle against your grandparents.
Oh, really?
So, yes, I am old enough to be Mackenzie's grandmother, which is kind of scary as well, but that just shows how old I really am getting. But yeah, that's
so funny too.
part of it.
My grandparents, actually, their first date was off of a bet in the cattle show.
Somebody is sitting there giggling at us.
I know.
Yeah, look at the face.
I see it.
Yeah. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be up here. As soon as he gets done with these duties, we're going to bring him up here, and we're going to rake him over the coals for doing that. We're referring to Blakely Clements, who won this contest in 2001, and he's out there making fun at us. Yeah, he can't even look at us now because he knows we're talking about him.
So are they still going through like 10-year members?
Yes,
and
yes. This is all 10-year members, and
which then they have the picture, I think, in the 4-H building too, up on the wall. Or at least used to.
Yes. We have a 10-year area display. It's kind of cool. It's actually what do you call those things? You're the home environment chick.
I don't know. Like it's what they put the posters on. Like it's a stand, and then they have all
it's
I don't know how to describe it.
It's one of those Venetian divided wall
there
things.
you go. Yeah.
I think, remind me next year, Melissa, and I'll run an audio cord over to their PA system and take an output. I think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of cool, so we can actually hear some of the things that they're talking about, which kind of make it a little easier for us too, because we are trying to fill some of the airtime, folks. So if we get off on a tangent, that's the reason why we actually we have a lot of memories in this place, and my memories are a little different than Mackenzie's, and just puts a little different perspective on it. And I remember when her mom was showing the circuit, and we were still taking some cattle, and so because we had younger members in our family, Larry's on the high end, the older end, and we had younger cousins that were still showing. So I remember your mom showing.
Yeah.
So and then to see you come up and show, that just was amazing from the time you were tiny and showing animals. So that's, we kind of have different perspectives on all of it, and we're trying to convey those perspectives to all of you who are out there and listening. So it's kind of neat. All these 10-year members actually get our Farm Bureau here in Clinton County is very supportive of 4-H. And they not only present the 10-year award, but they also, each member that goes through, they sponsor all the plaques. everybody gets a little thank you for your service and everything, and I think that's just so cool. A lot of these kids, in fact, the majority of them are already entering college. They may have gone on and went ahead and went into summer classes, and we have a very high post-secondary school rate in our 4-H program as well. It's very rare. We have had a few that go into the military service, and we applaud them for that. But I don't think there's any kid that has not gone on to something else that has gone through the program here.
It says so much, not only about 4-H, but about our county, and how these kids, they've worked hard to get that 10-year, and then they just keep working hard, and they want to go on, and they want to do better than what they have now.
Jordan Stillwell just gave me that relief look because I promised him that I would leave him alone this fair because I have picked on him so much through FFA that I told him I would leave him alone for the 4-H fair. So I think he's still afraid. He's close enough to the stand that he's still afraid I'm gonna yank him over. But and that's another thing with all the kids that are going through here that we see them go through, and something with 4-H and the speaking skills and FFA as well. I mean, they go hand in hand a lot of times in everything. In fact, some of the judging competitions are actually both FFA and 4-H. So we have a lot of county teams.
Yes, we do.
That are made up of all the other schools.
Right.
So
and I think that's cool too. Just that that our schools are able to work together and be on teams like that. And it's not just you have to stick with your school, because to make that better team and to really work and get the best out of everybody, you have to combine. And because some people may know more, they may have those tips or secrets that the other school doesn't.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's definitely a testament to our programs and our schools. All our schools work well together, and not necessarily just the ag schools. We have Clinton Prairie and Rossville and Clinton Central that all have very strong ag programs, but then we also have Frankfort, who has very good programs as well, and they join in with the other three schools, and everybody works together. Absolutely. And 4-H is a great way to show that too, because there are kids here from all schools.
Well, and it's just so cool to see the kids from all the schools this week, because as soon as they get here and as long as their work's done, they're asking their parents and they're seeing those different friends from across the county, and that's who they get to hang out with all week. And it just makes the fair that much more enjoyable because you get to see those friends that you don't get to see all year. And it's cool because you're in a safe enough environment that those parents are able to let those kids run between these barns and just hang out and have a good time.
Now, when is that water contest or water squirting thing? When does that happen?
I know. We were talking the other day that we need to have like canoe races out there in the middle of the track just because it was so flooded.
After they clean the barn, don't they have a squirt gun fight?
There is a water fight. It is kind of a tradition.
Is there still a water fight?
Yeah, but you're not allowed to come in the barns. But yes, they still do that.
Friday night after the auction, everybody brings their buckets.
Yep. Yeah, but you are not allowed to throw water in the barns.
Correct.
That you have to stay outside the barns, and part of that is because all the parents hide in the barns.
Yes, they stay and they watch and they make sure no one gets hurt. But
the safety zone.
Yes,
Otherwise, they'll take your trophies and ribbons away.
Yeah, well,
that should be their threat.
It's more that parents don't bring clothes to change into, whereas the kids usually have clothes.
Yep.
I can remember actually having to drive home one night in a trash bag because I ventured out to the vehicle and that was the wrong thing to do. And my son's friends had already warned me, and I thought, no, surely they will not. And
they did anyway.
Yes, I got drowned. It was an interesting experience, but I can't say anything. I was in the water fights too.
Oh yeah,
they've been around for years. It's a tradition. So yes, I showed pigs, and my 10th year pig, my gilt that I took was a crossbred spotted gilt. She was red, but she had a lot of spots on her, so she was pretty. And I raised her. My father-in-law. Now he's my father-in-law. At that time he wasn't. My husband and I were dating, And that's how I got in the pigs anyway, because he told me if you're going to be in 4-H, you got to do animals too. But I raised her from a bottle.
Oh, wow.
Her mother died. We could not get all the piglets onto other sows at that time. And this little one just would not take to another sow. She would not do it for anything. So I got, believe it or not, I got lamb's supplement. And I just mixed it differently, tried everything I could just to find the right combination, and I finally got her to start taking a bottle, and I raised her.
That's awesome.
And she raised a lot of little pigs at the house. He didn't make me sell her. He told me you can take her home and we'll keep her. So we had her. She actually passed away on the farm.
Aw.
So, but yeah, that's probably my highlight of my livestock career.
Yeah. And I think that's just so cool that even though that was so long ago, you still have that memory with you. And it's just like most of these memories that you get from 4-H, they stick with you forever.
Oh, they do, yeah. And I can remember learning how to fit cattle even though I didn't know anything about them.
Yep.
And like I said, watching Larry's show against your grandparents,
Yeah.
and then watching your mom show growing
Right.
up, and watching you show growing up, and even show the differences in how animals are shown now, how they're fitted, because cattle are fitted totally different now than what they were back then. And we even have what they call blow and show goes, where you just wash them out, blow them out, and off you go. No more making those sticky tails that were in balls and took you 3 days to wash out.
Right.
Do they have more 10-year members than they normally do? It seems like
No,
quite an
actually,
army.
this is a small class.
Yeah.
Normally, we're anywhere from 35 to 45, so I think this year we're right at 30, maybe just a little bit below that. It's right in there somewhere, but yeah, no, this is actually small. Like Mackenzie said, she can remember growing up, and this whole ring would be lined with 10-year members.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
but I can also remember back in the day when 4-H, we had well over 1,000 kids in 4-H, and now we've got a little under 700 right now. And still, that's very large for a county in Indiana to have that many kids in their 4-H program. But it's down from what we used to have.
I think that's obvious with football, Boy Scouts,
Yeah.
4-H.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably there's so many choices now. The total is the sum of the parts, but there are more parts.
Right, and a lot of those options are now year round, whereas used to, Russ, when you and I were growing up, you didn't do sports year round like you do now. You did it during the season during school, and that was it. And you might do some summer conditioning, but you didn't play sports year round like they do now. And a lot of these kids, they do that. That's the way they stay competitive. And
Exactly.
so I think you see a lot of that. And it's not cheap to do activities.
Right.
We touched about how economically challenging it is to do livestock especially,
Exactly.
but even the building projects, a lot of those are not.
Yes, those take a ton of time.
Yeah.
Here we go. Something's happening.
We're getting close after they're doing the 10-year members
Yes.
now, 10-year awards. Hannah McFalls and Nash Smith are our 10-year winners. They've completed the most projects overall, not just livestock, but also building projects. Over their 10-year career, they've accumulated numerous projects and completed them. And pretty fitting.
Yes.
It's kind of neat to see those accomplishments. So, and then also your scholarship winners and. won it last year, you can make him go with you.
Soon they'll be announcing the Supreme Showman winner. We have the contestants right down here, waiting.
Yeah. We're going to drag another winner up here real quick. Okay, Blakely. Mr. Blakely Clements. Mr. Blakely Clements won this contest in 2001.
That was 16 years ago.
I know. Aren't you an old man now?
I'm very old nowadays, especially when the young lady beside me is one that I watched grow up her entire life, and she's in college, so it makes me feel very old nowadays.
Okay, well, now beyond my perspective, because you're the same age as my son, so because you guys grew up together and went to school together. So, yeah, I'm going to make you look at the camera. This is sad, yeah. Yeah, see, that's what you get for making fun of Mackenzie and I up there.
I want to clarify, I was not making fun of. I was glaring at you and smiling. You're doing such a wonderful job up here tonight.
Yeah, no, you're just giving us a hard time. That's what you were doing.
That's true. That's always been my goal in life, is to make sure that happens.
From your perspective, being on the whole end of this as a 10-year 4-H member, being a contestant, and also as a winner, I mean, what does it mean to you to see this competition still going on, and maybe what's going through these kids' heads while they're sitting out here?
You know, I expect you and Mackenzie probably talked about it a lot, but you think about what you went through as a contestant and how it made you feel, and the whole time you're so nervous, and you're just sitting here waiting, listening to all these other awards, and you wonder to yourself, how has everything gone about, and what is going on. And so I think that the most important thing is to remember that when we leave here and we're done with 4-H, that it really goes on in our life. And so when I travel around and do county fairs, I make sure that they know that it's the most important thing about 4-H is Supreme Showmanship. You know, I always tell the kids that show for us, or that my niece, as you saw me this week, I was a little crazy. I am the crazy show uncle. Mackenzie can contest to this. But, you know, I want to make sure that they understand the process. It's not just about being in 4-H and winning a ribbon. It's about the understanding of presenting that animal and feeding that animal and making it live to get to the fair. Because as we know, sometimes that does not happen. But, you know, you always want to make sure that in the end game that you're always going back to what you love to do. And so I think when I switched careers and I decided to go back into something that was agriculture based, I decided that I wanted to be able to go back out into the communities and work with kids and be able to give stuff out. And so that's why today I was excited to come back to my hometown, which I haven't been to in 15 years. Moving back to Clinton County is pretty exciting, and so to be able to give the money out to the kids today was really nice. And so it kind of shows you that those 5 kids that are sitting down there in those green shirts are far more excited and nervous about tonight than anyone else in this room is. But that's what 4-H is about, is to get them out here and to want to be excited. So.
I agree, and hopefully one of these days we'll see your niece out there, because I know she's quite the little showman already. She's collected a lot of hardware in a quick, short time.
She did. I always told her, I said when we started this adventure a couple years ago, well, when she was Mackenzie's age and she started at 5, you know, it makes you feel old once they start that young. But, you know, I told her that our goal every time we go someplace is to do well in showmanship. I could care less if you win a ribbon. Granted, nowadays that she's in 4-H, it's a little more exciting when she does, because Uncle Blakely doesn't have much anxiety. But, you know, I always tell her that when you win showmanship and that people commend you when you walk out of the ring. I mean, I had so many people come up to me and say, she looked like you as a kid. And so that made me feel good that, you know, that we all look alike and that we work together. And because we're in the barn multiple hours a day, and I don't think people that don't live in the community or live in agriculture understand the process that we go through to get ready. And when she goes to the state fair, you know, that's her highlight of the summer.
Well, and I know one of the things that Mackenzie and I touched on was the fact that this is a community, it is a village, it's a family, and there's a, you know, yeah, we have the individual families that compete and everything, but when you get to something like this, we're all one big happy family, and everybody takes care of each other, and everybody's excited and proud of each other. So as well, just like, you know, I was proud of you kids when you guys were competing, and even though my kids were competing too, it was still exciting to see everybody do well.
And I always told her, I said, no matter if you lose, You always go up to that person and tell them congratulations. You may not agree that day, but I always remind everyone that it's that judge's opinion. We have our own opinions because we know what they look like and how they do, but you always want to tell everyone congratulations because it is very true. Like you're proud of them because they've worked just as hard or harder than you have, and so to come to that conclusion and like what they're talking about right now, a young man that was in 4-H and a young lady that was in 4-H that were very dedicated to what they did, and then they lost their lives, that they're giving back to different things. And so I think that's just amazing that from the future. I remember when Mr. Travis passed away when I was a kid. My mom's club, the Kirkland Hoosier Farmers, still gives away that same award to this day, and I think it's been how many years? I don't know how many years it's been, but it's been at least 15 or at least 16
maybe
years.
even more than that, yeah.
Travis Stowers, and these kids have no idea who he is or what happened, but it's still a community and a family, and that family still comes every year, and so this is what they're starting with the Zach Caldwell Memorial Scholarship Fund, and so I think that's just great that a community can come together and do such an amazing thing.
We want to encourage our listeners as well that these scholarships that Blakely's talking about, there are ways to give back. I know Kirkland Hoosiers that presents the Travis Stowers Award, funds are short, funds are hard, and I know that the kids work really hard to raise money to do that award. So, if you're out there listening and you want a way to give back and you want to help with these awards, then do so. Talk to Kirkland, help them out with the Travis Stowers Award. Keep that going. There's also a foundation for scholarships that send kids to Leadership Conference in Washington, D.C. that they can actually go to the Indiana FFA Foundation and donate to that. Or in this case, they're just now starting the Zachary Caldwell Scholarship Fund, and it's just one of those things that, like you said, it takes a tragedy and it turns it around to make something positive come from that.
It's great. I know that over the years there's been different things, and so I think that when a group of families that may not be related to them, I know neither of them are related to that individual, but one is my cousin actually, and so it's nice that they're wanting to give back to the community and help a family, and so it'll give kids a scholarship to go on to college and remember those kids every year from now on, and such a tragic thing such as Jill Biddle's daughter passing away from texting and driving, and so it really makes you think to yourself, what do I do and how can I give back to my community? And you're very right. If you call the extension office, you can give to any one of these at any time. Any non-for-profit always needs our community support, but right now, especially in a tragedy, they always need to make sure that we help those people from here on out.
Yeah, exactly. And I appreciate you coming up here, Blakely. We've been plotting this for a while, but I thank you for your experience. And
I think the last time I did this was with Cindy Lovelace, probably this time.
Yeah, that would be right. That would be right. Yeah.
So it was great seeing you. So thank you.
Yeah, and I get very old when Quentin comes up here, Cindy's boy.
Oh, yeah.
Because at that time she wasn't even doing this, and now he's driving.
Oh, it does make me feel very old. That has really gotten me this week working at Rural King in town. It's just, you see everyone that you've known since they were babies, and then they come in and they're full grown and have children of their own. It does get you. It will get you, I promise. It's only your first year out of 4-H, but it will come back full swing. So.
Very much so, very much so. But we'll let you get back to business and let you go enjoy. Yep, exactly.
We're fighting the hurricane of the fan, Melissa.
Yeah, I've been trying to cover my mic up. So,
I noticed that. It's,
so maybe it would help a little bit. But
interesting. A lot of awards, a lot of...
Yes, and like Blakely stated, right now they're talking about a young man from Clinton Prairie, Zachary Caldwell, who was 14. He was killed in a tragic farm accident, and they have been, all the schools have been working together trying to help raise funds to put towards a scholarship fund in Zachary's name, and it's going to be given at the fair because he was a very active FFA member, but he was also a very active 4-H'er, and the one way that the family feels that they can reach all the schools, because Zachary was involved in FFA as well and was there with all the kids that. And we just had a moment of silence for them. And go ahead. we're going to lose Mackenzie here because we were getting very close to awards time, and she needs to go do her duties as well. So,
Melissa, I'm going to have you use this mic. It's a little better on the wind.
Sure.
And then I'll pot yours down. There's our winner.
Tate is our winner. Right now he's receiving several awards. He's receiving a belt buckle from LMRC Miller Farms, and he's also receiving awards from Rural King, and his banner and his chair have been sponsored, and then getting his picture taken with the queens. So it's kind of neat. So getting hugs and congratulations from all the other contestants. Like I said, they all cheer each other on, and then getting pictures with all the sponsors of all the awards that he's received, and it's kind of neat. It's a cool deal, and everybody's proud of each other and proud for all those. We have one 10-year member. She did not win it today. It was not her day, and you'll see a lot of people going out there and comforting her as well, because this is her last hurrah. Now, she is going to show at State Fair. I do know that for a fact because I know the family, but this is her last moment.
Maybe we could bring the winner up, possibly.
Yeah, we'll see if we can get Tate here in a little bit. He's going to be dealing with a lot of family and friends at the moment, and enjoying and almost kind of savoring the moment. And if we can't get him tonight, then we'll definitely get him tomorrow night at the livestock auction for sure. But we'll try and get Tate up here. It means a lot, though, to all these kids and their families as well. And like I said, we only have one 10-year member, so this is her last hurrah, and everybody's making sure that she gets a congratulations and a pat on the back, as well as all the other contestants. So. We want to give Mackenzie Paget a big shout out for helping us. I don't think we could have pulled this off without her. She's so familiar with the contest and has done such a good job for us as well. And we're gonna get Tate up here real quick, and we're gonna get Tate for us for on the air, and then we're also gonna turn him over to Ken because Ken's here. And Ken's going to get some articles with Tate as well, and some pictures to get it put on the Clinton County Daily News as well. So we'll get Tate up
Ken
here.
Can come up if he wants. And
we're going to get Mackenzie back up here because Mackenzie knows the feeling. She knows the rush. And Mackenzie is also kind of leaning a little bit towards communications too, which I'm pushing her that direction. Mackenzie, I'm going to let you handle Tate's interview.
All right. Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you, and I'm super proud of you. So why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about what it feels like to finally win, and what it feels like being a second-year competitor, and what the experience did to help you.
The experience really helped. I got a feel for all the species that I didn't show, and being able to be out here again and really show what I can do really made me proud of what I can do. I just went out today with a lot of confidence, and I just kept my cool and just showed the animal the way they needed to be showed, and just went how it went, and it happened, and we won, so it was a good day.
What do you think was the most nerve-wracking part?
Probably my question, because I got it wrong, but other than that, it was pretty simple. I just kept my cool and just showed the animal the way they need to be shown, and that's all I needed to do.
Right. Well, I thought your answer was pretty great because I think that if you don't know the answer, that you should always stick to honesty. But I know you have a lot of people waiting to tell you congratulations, and I'm sure your family wants a bunch of pictures, so I'll let you go. But we just want to say congratulations again.
Alrighty, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Mackenzie, while we have you up here, we want to thank you so much for your expertise. There's no way that we could have pulled this off without you. And you know I love you. You're one of my kids and always will be. And we hope that you stick around. Good luck with college.
Thank you.
I know you love it. You've already
Thank you.
told me how much you enjoy it. And please come back.
I
will. You always have a spot with me up here.
All right. Well, thank you. I had so much fun being up here tonight, and it was so cool seeing it from this perspective. So I'm glad I got the opportunity.
Well, again, thank you very much, and go enjoy.
Thank you. I
All
will.
right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, a former winner. We had a couple winners up on the platform today.
Yes, we did. It made it great, and it definitely brings a better perspective to the whole program when you have someone who has been through it, and they can give you their perspective on both sides of the fence, so to speak. Literally, actually.
Well, Melissa, another year has passed. I've learned a couple lessons. I'm going to try to pick up the PA feed next year. And but the great job, as always. You have a feel not only for the kids, but the subject matter. And, of course, it's more than half of it is about the kids. And
I thank you for the opportunity. I know we talked about this numerous times, that I actually went to school for this years ago and got involved in the agricultural end of it. Coming right out of high school, I met my husband while I was in high school and fell in love with agriculture at that point, and just pursued that side of it. And now that my kids are all grown and on their own, then you've given me the opportunity to go back and pursue my communications. So
we'll go ahead and post this on YouTube and put it on the channel. Once again, from the Clinton County and 4-H Fair, the livestock arena, we just saw the Supreme Showman Championship, and Tate took it home and has that nice belt buckle too, by the way. And we want to thank Clinton County Senator Brant Hirschman for helping make this possible.
Without him, we would not be able to do this broadcast, and he's such a huge supporter of the youth in all of his areas, but definitely here in Clinton County.
So from the Clinton County and 4-H Fair, this is Melissa Miller and Russ Casper.